Perfect. Cool. So, Chris, thanks for joining us today.
Fine.
It's your first day at the A95 Academy, first training session. Just how was the experience? How did you think it went? What was some of the things that you were impressed with?
First of all, yeah, I thought it went well. It's always, you know, interesting when you meet new players and new staff and new people around. And it's great to see how the staff integrate with the players. You know, some of them have come here on a different football journey, and hopefully their education will hold them in good stead for the future.
Most of the boys here are 16 to 18, one or two are 19. What are some of the key things that you're looking to see from these young players at this stage in their development?
Well, some of them obviously have missed out on the opportunity to be in an academy, which is always heartbreaking. But I think it's important that they realise that they've got a good opportunity here to enhance their futures, not only in football but in life as well. And you never know, there's always people watching. So always putting their best foot forward is what would be my biggest advice.
And today you worked on, in the training session, a number of shooting drills, specifically one around the 6-yard box, which we call the red zone. What was your thinking behind that, and why was that so important today?
Because I think a lot of the times, people do finishing when it's like from 20, 30 yards away, which is not usual. I know we see a lot of the chances that people actually do miss are from close to the goal. And I think people think it's too easy, so they don't concentrate, they don't use the correct techniques to finish, try to hit the ball too hard, leaning backwards, stuff like that. So it's really important for them to just learn that shooting isn't just from outside the box, 30-yard shots that very rarely go in.
And you've obviously got quite an impressive CV across football, from the professional game to obviously now the academy level. What is it that keeps you so passionate and motivated in youth football?
I think you can get a lot of satisfaction because, there's growth there. Obviously in the pro game there's growth, but probably a little bit less. I think honing in the skills, you can see how people move further along the continuum. So I think that's important for me, and obviously seeing how players develop has always been a passion of mine.
And in your eyes, based on what you've seen throughout your career, what separates a young player who's taken that next step to the professional level from the ones that fade away?
Arsene Wenger said something earlier in his career, was talking about the stamina and motivation, and I think a lot of the times people want the shortcut, so they're motivated for an intense period, and then when things don't go well, they tend to drop off. So I think the stamina and the motivation is important. And obviously, as we know, timing is important as well. You can be a really good player and be at the wrong place at the wrong time and don't get through.
I guess that ties into how important it is that for a group like A95 has different pathways that suit like different players. Yeah. Managers will play differently, footballers will play differently, and it's important that from an academy perspective you have enough pathways for them to kind of like test themselves.
Yeah, and also the versatility of a player and the mindset of a player to be able to meander through the different managers and coaches that they're going to come across is really important. I think it's really important to have that open mind so that you can work with different people.
For the players that are 16 to 19 in the academy phase or other programs, how important is it for them to balance technical ability and the physical fitness aspect, or should one take priority over the other at this stage?
I think you need a baseline of technical ability. I think you need a baseline technical ability, and the physical, you can work on the physical. But a baseline of technical ability is probably going to take you further than being supremely fit.
Who are the top 3 players that you've probably seen in your career that stood out from a technical standpoint?
Well, I mean, Eze, he was Ilias chair. You know, I've worked with quite a few different players, Tom Carrolls, Ryan Masons, people like that.
Yeah.
They were really good technical, Adam Smiths. So most of my career, I've fortunately been able to base my program on technical ability, and the fitness we can work is probably easier to work on than the technical.
And in those players that you mentioned, and there's probably loads more that you've worked with in your career, what type of habits did you see them adopt on a daily basis that took them from kind of that level lower and then kind of pushed them on throughout their career?
I think everything's built on the basics. If you are really, really, really good at the basics, then you know what the spirits have given you as regards the tricks and magic will come out, or your passing ability will come out. But if your basic skills are very, very tight, you've got a chance to move forward, and your game understanding becomes easier because you're not fighting and wrestling with the ball. So I think that's important.
Since leaving the QPR dugout in 2015, I believe it was, you've obviously gone into academy football, and you've been more behind the scenes, obviously at England as well. How's that transition been for you, for people that have always wondered?
Well, even when I left the first team football at QPR, I was coaching every day.
Yeah.
And my development personally was working with different age groups all through the day, you know, so working with the development squad in the morning and then working with the under 12s in the evening, and then maybe helping with the under 18s in the afternoon. So working along the continuum has been something that I've always valued, as a development area for coaches.
And what are some of the most valuable lessons from your time in professional football that you try to pass on to young boys now?
You know, there's a saying, your future is hidden in something that you do every day. So when so do the right things when people are not watching.
Yeah.
You know, people tend to think, if I've got to do a gym session, no one's there, I won't do it. If I've been told to do, 200 kick-ups, they'll do 99 instead of doing the 200.
Like skipping out those extras.
Yeah, exactly. Because nobody's there. So you owe it to yourself to work to the best of your ability most of the time, well, all the time. So that's what I would say to people: just do the right things when no one's there.
And moving on to something a bit more about yourself. From your playing days, we spoke a little bit earlier. You were a right back.
Yeah.
Which I said to you is one of the most physically demanding positions on the pitch. What is, in your opinion, one cheat meal that you loved in your playing days, which a young player at this stage probably should avoid?
Oh, cheat meal.
Those guilty pleasures that...
Don't know, couple of pints. I think they should.
What's your pint of choice?
Estrella.
And when you look back on the professional players that you worked with, what are some of the habits that they had nutritionally? I know we spoke about their day-to-day habits, but when it comes to like a nutrition standpoint, what did you kind of notice with those players?
What, recently?
Throughout your career, just
no,
things that they're eating.
I think one thing that's been probably monumentally different in football is the nutrition. I know with sports science has changed, but I think that's been monumentally different. The education in nutrition and hydration has been probably one of the biggest game changers as regards physical development. And I don't think it's just in football. I think it's in life and in all sports. I think that's probably been a fundamental game changer.
If you could give these boys that you've just worked with this morning a simple performance tip to start using tomorrow in the game, what would it be?
In the game or to train in training?
To take from training to the game.
I just think focus on your basic techniques, because I think a lot of players who don't make it, or players in grassroots, work on their first touch, and your first touch actually is the door to everything. And I think if you look at most pros, regardless of the level, they have an adequate first touch that allows them to play the next pass. So it's not always your first touch, it's more about your second touch. So how can you set yourself up for your second touch?
Usually the first touch dictates what you do next, right?
Exactly.
You take it with you, you stop it. Yeah.
Exactly.
And in terms of this season, your hope for the group of boys, what would a successful season look like, both in terms of, from a football standpoint and as young men?
I think as young men, first and foremost, can they do what they said they were going to do, which is
stick to their promises.
Stick to their promises, yeah. Which is doing their program, making sure that their classroom stuff is done first and foremost, which is one of the opportunities they've got to enhance their life. And then obviously the ones who want to get back into the game, just ensure that you work on the basics more than looking at the YouTube and looking at things that never happen in the game.
And lastly, what was it about the A95 group and obviously the program that Dillon's got going on here? What was it that kind of sold you and made you think, yeah, I see the vision, I see where this is going?
Well, I spoke to Dillon before, and for a young man, he's got quite good views on developing players, and I think to have someone of that energy and that youth who thinks in that way, but is always willing to learn. I think that's really important for the boys, and as well as obviously for himself.
Chris, appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Brilliant.